News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
I'm Allan Gilbreth with... What are you pointing at? You're waving your arms.
Go ahead.
I'm with darkoakmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian. Apparently, Joe wanted me to give me an intro.
Okay.
Yeah. I was pointing at him, Allan, not you.
All of a sudden, his arms start waving. I'm like, are we on the air? What?
I'm tired of introducing Max. He can do it himself.
Excellent.
Yeah. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And, of course, we invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and give us a like. Check out all the action over there. And you can also see our must-have item of the week, which I already posted, Allan. It's up there. And what else, Allan? That's the best way. Just check it out. Give us a like. Go to tooltalkradio.com if you feel like it. Send us messages. We'll get into all that, as the show unfolds. Well, Allan, we've got another. We got an interesting lineup here. We've got our confession hotline continues to. People are purging for our amusement. So we've got an interesting one involving painting. And this is the first one from a female listener. So this is wonderful. This will be cool. Allan, you told me in our exhaustive show prep last night that it's time to talk about USBs in the home.
Yes, it is. Oh, my gosh.
I think we're overdue, honestly.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're gonna do that. We've got a cool must-have item of the week, and then Allan, we're gonna talk about the role of a contractor. It goes beyond just trying to sell you their services or whatever. The helping you see the bigger picture and things like that. And I think it's going to be an interesting discussion of what happens when a contractor shows up at your house in the best case scenario.
True. I've got several good examples loaded up and waiting for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and as we say, we would love to talk to you at our Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989. So it's all coming at you today on Tool Talk Radio. But before we get to any of that...
And now, Tool Talk Radio's Weekly Salute.
At some point, everyone needs a space of their own. After spending the first 6 years of his marriage living with his mother-in-law, Ralph Cramden found a space that he and his wife Alice could call their own at 328 Chauncey Street. I think that's the address. I have it drilled in my memory, Allan, but maybe. When Darth Vader needs a space of his own to regenerate his burned and mutilated body after a hard day of enslaving the galaxy, he retires to his private Bacta tank. I think that's right. When Max, the producer, needs a space of his own to do some target practice with ninja throwing stars, break 2x4s with his forehead, or slice discarded mannequins in half with a samurai sword.
Those were the days.
He retreats to his favorite abandoned warehouse behind the Dairy Queen.
How else am I going to figure out whether or not my katana can slice through 50 bodies?
Exactly. You need to know these things, Allan. And, of course, when Allan Gilbreth decided that he'd like a quiet space of his own, he drew inspiration from the famous Bat Cave and constructed a 20,000 square foot subterranean headquarters under his backyard, even going so far as to build a robot named Alfred to manage the space for him. Unfortunately, however, Allan would soon discover that he had made some crucial errors when downloading the android's personality software, most notably the sense of humor software, which he set to level 10, the appreciation of irony software, which he set to level 9, and the rational thinking software, which he inadvertently set to level 1, leading Alfred to formulate one day that it would be highly amusing to turn off the headquarters sub pump, run a fire hose down the ventilation shaft, flood the entire structure, and top off the gag by dropping in several hundred piranhas.
Yeah.
To Allan's credit, however, he did not deactivate Alfred, opting instead to gift the robot to his least favorite cousin, Montague Gilbreth III. You never liked that guy, did you?
He needed help with this pond.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, no matter who we are, having a space of our own is good for our mental well-being. And this is also true for our dogs. How's that for a hard left turn, Alan? For
good.
millennia, canines have been our trusted companions who often love nothing more than to spend time with their owners. However, sometimes even they need a little time to themselves. My friends, we give you the doghouse.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Okay.
I will say this, however, deep fried piranha is really tasty.
Sure, I knew you'd make the best of the situation, so yeah. But Alan, and off the air, we got to talk about this robot problem.
Yeah,
we've
well,
had.
you know.
Anyway, so Alan, the doghouse I thought was worthy of a salute. It's part of many people's homes, and the history of it's actually pretty interesting. So,
Well, it's kind of a gateway topic. It really gets into how to live with critters.
yeah, absolutely.
Early on, of course, I'm thinking like movies like the one with Heath Ledger where he's a knight running around and they're talking about living in the hut with the chickens and the pigs underneath it.
Right. Yeah.
So what to do with your critters has been a huge topic since we've ever had them.
Yeah.
And, let's face it, dogs have fleas. We really don't want those.
No, I probably don't.
So, the horse is nice and warm, but let's face it, the horse has a slight issue.
Yeah, we don't want them in the house.
Yeah, we
either,
don't want those guys in the house. So, so how to keep them close and also best how to utilize their senses.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, you don't want that bear wandering in.
Right. I mean, there's sort of an alarm system. There's sort of
Exactly.
whatever. But when I was doing some research on the history of the doghouse, that of course, the first ones were they either lived inside or they just kind of found their own way outside.
Right.
And then some people started they said over the millennia they'd build like mud huts for them or something
Right.
like that, or then what I learned that was interesting, though, is during the Industrial Revolution, it started to become kind of mainstream. They started to manufacture these and mass-produce dog houses, which I just wonder the marketing on that. That's pretty interesting when you think about like 1800s marketing and everything, what that looked like.
But you also have to think the dogs also changed at that time.
Oh, good
They
point.
weren't necessarily work dogs anymore.
That's a good point because it's no longer, the sheepdog's working all day.
Exactly, but
this one might just be a
A
companion.
lap dog,
A
right.
lap
Now we
dog.
started getting companion animals.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look back at like the Victorian era and you look at dog houses for them,
Yeah.
there are some amazingly nice dog houses.
Yeah. Oh, well, I bet. I mean, everything was all gilded and all that back then.
Pardon the terrible fun, but they were blessed with creature comforts.
Yeah.
So like I said,
Well,
I
and
wish I
during,
had a rim shot sound effect for that.
yeah, it wasn't that good of a joke. Don't worry about it, Max. Anyway.
Hey,
but-
I even asked for forgiveness before I said it. So.
Yeah. Hey, but Alan, one thing I did learn in this deep dive was that I didn't realize that that there was actually legislation going back. I think it was even to the early 1800s about protecting animals and not just letting them being treated,
Correct.
badly and mistreating them. And so, the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals goes back much further than I thought. That's from the 1800s.
Yes,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well,
So it's cool to think that people back then were thinking, okay, let's treat them with dignity and treat them with respect, So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Well, it's also during this time when you wind up with some kind of weird things, like people found out that chickens laid more eggs if you played music for them.
Oh, very
That kind of
interesting.
stuff. I mean, there's lots of really kind of interesting twist, that for the critters you had to live with. Because if you think the Victorian area, everybody had either chickens or geese in their backyard.
Yeah.
And, if you go back to Charles Darwin's, not Charles Darwin's, Charles Dickens.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And you're talking about the local butcher and all that kind of stuff. Well, people brought their animals from home to him to be turned into food.
I guess you're right, man.
Maybe you didn't want to get rid of, Bob the rooster, but you took him down to see.
Bob will take. Yeah, I mean,
you took him down to see Carl the butcher, and Bob became a chicken dinner.
yeah. Okay.
This was a service that was offered, and so you wound up with all kinds of housing. And, where to put the dog. And the dog has always had the prized, we're going to say, point position in our lives with creatures living with us.
Well, I mean, because all animals are different. I mean, cats, for example, they clean themselves. You don't have to give a cat a bath.
Right.
Mostly, unless they get
You hope.
whatever.
Right.
But so dogs are different, and then, and thus and plus just the history of us, living with dogs and everything. So I guess the doghouse just got preeminence. They got, the dogs got favorable treatment and they got their own doghouse.
Well, and even today where the dogs usually live in the house with us and that kind of stuff, it is not a bad idea to have them a doghouse or one of the things I've seen recently are the dog igloos.
Those are good. They keep the rain off.
They keep the rain. If the dog's going to be outside for a little bit, give them a place to get out of the sun. Give them a little place to go flop down and, relax. And you can also use a lot of anti-insect materials that you can now purchase at your local feed and pet store that will keep the little critters off of your pet critter.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, well, so hats off to the doghouse, our salute of the week. Well, Allan, you know who never mistreats animals? In fact, he treats human beings really well as well.
He keeps us treated pretty good.
Yeah,
right.
Is our good buddy Larry Brown from Brown Refrigeration. He's a busy guy, and it's for a good reason because they just do top-notch work. If the HVAC system, we think about these things, Allan. There's certain fundamental things you got to get right. You got to get your roof right. You got to get your HVAC system right. It's just sort of a central part of the home. And you need competent professionals, and you also want somebody that you want to establish a relationship because it's an ongoing thing. There's maintenance. You want to make sure it's tuned up, just like you want a good car mechanic. So
there's a certain level of comfort knowing that if X goes wrong, I'm going to call.
Absolutely. And they're rock solid. They're excellent professionals, and all their technicians are really cool too. So the entire team over there is outstanding. And if you need any clean air systems with their Remy Halo, if you need a smart home app for all of your needs in the home, which is the way to go, just give them a call. Brown Refrigeration, outstanding people. You can get in touch with them directly at 901-362-1881 or go to brownref.com. All right, Allan, let's shift gears. It's time to get techie. So I guess it's techie. You told me last night it's time to talk about USBs, and I almost feel like I think we're actually kind of overdue for this conversation. So
well, let me.
I'm assuming most people know what a USB is. If you've ever plugged your phone in to charge it up.
Or if you saw the Batman recently, a thumb drive.
Oh, spoiler, Max. Okay, yeah.
That's not a mega spoiler. That's just a dad pun.
Yeah, but you're right. So what those things weren't in our homes 20 years ago.
No. So. We were not equipped for the technological revolution we've been undergoing the last 10 years. But it's really the last 5 years that everything on the planet has gone to basically a USB plug.
Well, I got a dumb question. What is universal? I mean, it's universal.
It's a universal serial device.
Serial device. Okay. Mm-hmm. Wait, device, that's B. That would be USD port.
I'm sorry, US.
What does USB stand for?
B-Vice?
Yeah, not a B-Vice.
I put him on the spot. I actually stumped Allan.
Yeah, actually, I just went blank for a second because I remember the
Don't
original
Google
technology.
I don't care. Anybody can Google it if they want. I was just curious. But Allan, you're right. These things.
Oh, it's a universal serial bus. Yeah, that's right. It just took me a minute to get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I was in the wrong cab.
All right.
But
sorry, I distracted you. But let's talk about this because in the home, and you said you saw.
Oh my gosh! All right, let me set the stage.
Okay.
So around this corner, I'm walking into a person's office, and I swear it looks like Spider-Man sneezed and exploded.
Yeah.
There are just wires everywhere strung across this office, and it was USB cables. And honestly, it was a USB cable to a light, was a USB cable to a fan, was a USB cable to a phone. There was at least 2 other unidentified USB cables strung to various outlets and other such around this office.
Right.
And, she was, and it was a very cute little fan, but it plugged into the USB port right there on the front of the computer. So you had a cute little office fan that was USB powered.
Oh.
And they had a little light that was also USB powered. So it's kind of like, okay, pretty much any convenience for your home office, or that kind of thing can now be powered by USB.
Which means basically, though, the power is coming into the computer and being dispersed through USB.
Right.
It's still getting plugged in.
It's basically running on 4.5 volts.
It's just a different kind of extension cord when you put it that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And happily, there are a number of companies out there that make USB towers.
Right.
And I am going to be a huge advocate. If you haven't looked one of these up or purchased one online or been to an electronic store, for heaven's sake, get one of these things for a central location in your house.
Yeah.
Don't die tripping over these cords.
No, because it is a lot like I like that it's minimal because USB cables are thinner. Obviously, you can't power everything with it,
Right.
but I love the fact that a USB cable transmits not only electricity but information, digital information. It's pretty fascinating, honestly.
It's an amazing technology that has enabled our modern world to function. However, it has begun to clutter.
Yeah.
So the more devices there are, the more need there is. And I'm kind of one of those odd people that 20 years ago, working in offices and stuff, I started putting the surge protector on top of the desk. Because you're always having to crawl under the desk to unplug something or plug something in, or
behind your computer.
Yeah, behind the desk and that kind of stuff. I actually became a fan of putting the power supply on top of the desk where you can reach it.
Right.
Because you're constantly moving around. So what I'm going to advocate here is it's time to sit down at your work spot. And I'm really bringing this up because so many people work from home now.
Right.
And I have seen some great looking setups, and I have seen some absolute disasters. And the biggest is all of that wiring.
Yeah, now you're making me wonder, Alan, because if it obviously a home that was built, 50 years ago or something that nobody even knew what a USB was, it hadn't been invented yet or anything. But now that you're saying this, if you have a home office or if you're somebody that's using the computer or whatever, you don't know what part of the room you're actually going to need a USB so do you think we'll get to a point where it's going to be basically as common as just the electrical box? When they wire a house, are they going to put, okay, here's the electrical outlet, and right next to it is the USB port, and we're going to have 70 USB ports in our house?
Let me just jump over that and land on it. And
I knew that would trigger him.
There are now replacement wall sockets you can buy at your big box store right now.
Boom.
That have got USB ports on them.
Okay.
And I'm going to advocate, if you've got electrical outlets above a counter, you need to go ahead and swap these out and put in some USB power outlet sockets.
Okay, go ahead, Alan. You're making me think of something else, but
Go ahead.
Well, my only thought was, I wonder if the home of the future. Okay, for example, we go to the Vesta Home Show, right?
Yes, we do.
And one of the great things, folks, with the Vesta Home Show is they build these brand new homes. They're always state of the art. They're the latest in design and technology. And one thing that we noticed is that in a lot of these homes, they'd have a big, what do they call it? Like a movie room or whatever.
Right.
They had like a giant TV. They had the reclining seats and they had the surround sound and everything. Well, they didn't have all the cables and everything. They almost had a separate closet behind it.
Right.
That had it was like your central computer of your home.
It was basically a server room in your home. Yes.
Right. And so I feel like that's going to be the wave of the future, especially when you start talking about these home batty charging systems and things like that. So I'm picturing a certain interconnectedness now with some of this where the USB, like in other words, I'm sitting down in the living room and I need to send some information, or I've got my printer upstairs in the other room. And so I'm plugged into the USB
you're gonna
cable
pull out
here.
you're not even going to pull out USB.
Or just go through, yeah.
You're just going to pick up your portable computer that just so happens to have a phone in it.
Right, yeah.
Because it's no longer a phone. This thing is a camera that you can talk to people over.
That's true.
So you're going to pick up your device, and if you've got a available socket, let's say you've got a really advanced, one of those luxury chairs.
Right.
Well, guess what it's going to have on it? It's going to have a USB port.
Oh, yeah. The gaming chairs are, you talk about advanced.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, they got their own
Those
sound
are
system.
astounding.
Yeah. So, but I think I think there's an interesting intersection because right now you can upgrade your home. You can do things to eliminate a lot of the cables. Like I'm looking around here in the studio, Alan. the wiring here is so much more streamlined than it used to be. Because, of course, it's state of the art over here at 98.9 The Roar, but it's just, you would think thered be 8 million cables here, but really there isn't.
Well,
It's very,
there
very
have
clean.
been in other studios, but not in this one.
So we'll talk a little bit more about that because it's interesting to talk about these tech updates and how it's affecting not only just the way we live, but just like the design of our home. And,
Absolutely.
At its best, it'll streamline our lives, hopefully, and not cause the apocalypse or robots to take over. That's the goal, Alan. Anyway, we'll talk about that. And then actually, Alan, we didn't tease this, but we've got an interesting little recycling update that we're going to bring back when we get back from the break. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar Memphis. We'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
What kind of place is this?
News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis.
Yeah, we hear that a lot, Alan, when they walk in the door.
That was me 2 weeks ago.
Absolutely. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max behind the glass.
You're introducing me again.
Well, that's how we do it after the show gets going, because we don't want to waste time, Max, like we're doing now. You can call. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And, of course, we invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and give us a like and check out all the action over there. And speaking of online action, you told me something sort of interesting, Alan, because, what's great about radio today, it's so much different than it was in the old days, is you can listen digitally. You can listen to past shows. You can listen to any of our shows that you'd like. Either on Spotify or YouTube, and all of a sudden, Alan, you said there was a lot of action on YouTube.
Yeah,
this
we
week.
got
some weird spike. Huh?
I don't know, Tuesday was kind of our day, Joe, and suddenly everybody was listening. Lots and lots and lots of hits and downloads. So thank you very much out there. Y'all just keep listening.
Well, if you are listening, send us messages, especially if you're from out of state or if maybe you live in another country or something. It's fun to hear from those people. So
one of these odd things in my usual day job out there in the real world, I get to talk to New York a lot, and I talk also strangely to the Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
And big shout out to our friends down there in the DM. We love you guys. Keep sending me messages.
Yeah, absolutely. And a big shout out to my buddy Jim Wilkin in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
He listens every week, Alan, I think. So I think at least I hope you are, Jim, but So.
He says he does.
Yeah, he says he does. So, well, anyway, hey, Alan, before the break, we were talking about, what started this was you went into an office and noticed all the wiring everywhere. And it started a discussion because, even if you go into your car or if you go to your home, or there's a lot of things where you have a USB cable or a USB outlet that you didn't, that wouldn't have been there, obviously, like 20 years ago or something. And it's useful if you use them correctly. If you don't use them correctly, you get wires everywhere and everything. But it led us to a discussion of maybe what are the homes of the future going to look like in terms of wiring. I mean, it's obviously more than just USB. There's just all sorts of techie stuff that the problem is, though, Alan, technology changes so quick. It's like, is there going to be any of these bedrock things where we're always going to have a USB cable or...
I think we're always going to have a wall socket.
Yeah, I think
of some kind
for the foreseeable future.
Especially once we get into house batteries. That's going to be a big thing. I cannot stress enough. The home of the future will have a house battery.
Yeah.
And that will free you from various sundered electrical mishaps of the past.
Sure.
Because now you'll have a unit that will actually run your house.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it will connect to your smartphone, and you'll have 1,000 apps for 100 different things that it will do. But the biggest thing to me is that you'll have this buffer between you and the outside world that we don't currently have.
Well, it keeps you off the grid to a degree. It keeps you a little more self-sufficient.
And I think the hot water tank is due for some upgrades and changes because of smart home apps and possible instant on water.
All right, sorry, Alan. You know, folks, if you're new to Tool Talk Radio, you should know that anytime Alan triggers an idea, I interrupt him because I'll forget it 2 seconds later. But Alan, you just made me think of something. So
Okay.
here's my view of the home of the future. Because, you know, like you said, the house battery is going to be its own thing. Like right now in the center of your home, a lot of people have like a furnace or they have the HVAC system. Well, right next to that is going to be its own closet for your smart. Well, Alan, I could also see because one of the things that would be really useful are sensors, like sensors on your water line. Like if if suddenly there's a burst pipe, it'll automatically shut it down so your house doesn't flood when you're on vacation or something like that. Or sensors, there's going to be apps and there's going to be sensors connected to everything, and that's going to change the way we wire the house. So we can work our house from our phone basically. So
If you don't mind, I'd actually like to add a little bit of a counterpoint to that.
okay, go ahead.
So on the
You just wanted to use a sound effect, but
that and on the Motor Mouths recently, I'd come in like talking about the woes of Silver Chariot, which is the name of my Jeep. And I kind of talked to you about my critique of like cars back then versus cars now. Like I find that the presence of too many sensors actually is sort of self-destructive for the car, because if the oxygen sensor is bad, as it was on my car, all of a sudden the entire car is just, you know, it's kind of like like having like an autoimmune disease or like a allergy like that. Like the body unintentionally self-destructs itself, and even though the body is perfectly healthy and everything, it just reads things incorrectly. So imagine if your home had that sort of defect and everything. It's like your home all of a sudden spews out like toxic gas or just whatever, like because of a fouled sensor and everything.
Let me give a counterpoint to that. So no, Max, I understand your point. Gosh, this is getting turned into a hot debate, Alan. But let me, and Alan's sort of moderating and being amused. But I know exactly what you're talking about. With something goes wrong with your car. In the old days, it's like, well, the carburetor fell off or something, because it was basically straightforward. Well, now there's a sensor for everything.
Yes.
And I can't tell you how many times I've had a problem where I'm thinking, okay, well, it's this, and they're like, no, actually, it's this blah 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 sensor over here that you got to change. And so, I see your point. However, I think your house functions differently. A car. What is it, like 400? What is a car engine, like 400 degrees or something when it's running hot? So you've got something that's exposed to the elements. It's constantly running very hot, or it's exposed to extremes like the freezing temperatures outside or the really hot. So I feel like those sensors are gonna wear out quicker. And I don't know if a home is as complicated. I'm just thinking of a water pipe. Like if there's a sensor on your water line, I just don't think that's quite the same.
I mean, attics get a little hot and everything. That being said,
they get hot, but maybe I don't know. What do you think, Alan? Where do you land in this? Because I think there's room for both.
I'm going to land right between the two of you because of Max. You do have a huge point. There is a time where you can overdiagnose what you're doing.
Yeah.
However, on the flip side of recently with a car issue and myself, had a master cylinder that wasn't reading correctly. So did I have brakes or did I not?
Yeah.
And it took, and heaven help my mechanic, it took 3 tries to finally get a master cylinder with the right sensor that read things properly on my particular vehicle. So it took a little while, but the sensor did serve a purpose and it kept things nice and safe. Now, to look at a house, we have yet to begin to really put sensors into the house. So we haven't had how many, I'm going to pick on burglar alarms. How many burglar alarms have been set off by the cat?
Oh, right, yeah.
You didn't set.
But it's actually doing its job, right? It's it was set to.
But the failure is still the same that Max is talking about. The sensor didn't account for the fact that you have a cat.
Okay.
And it's the same thing. You're still getting a failure because of something that was normal to the normal operation of the unit. So the house of the future is going to be safer. I think we're going to have better systems, and I think they're already being developed. We're going to have better smoke detectors. We're going to have a smoke detector that can call you on the phone and say, dude, I smell smoke.
Right.
I don't want it to call me and go, I've been beeping for a battery for 2 years. But,
Check engine light for a house.
yeah, exactly. Well, Max, in many, many ways, you are dead on the money. Yeah.
I just wanted to kind of add this as a funny anecdote, but like not to go back to Silver Chariot again, but to go back to Silver Chariot again, my check engine light has gone through several cycles. There's the hard to steady one, and then there's the blinking one. And I found out the blinking one is pull over immediately. So what if we had a check engine light for our home and everything, and then all of a sudden it started blinking? Get out of the house immediately.
That's what we need, man. Yeah.
For
the carbon monoxide burn,
Well, I'm thinking for all of our listeners in the Nashville area on up, of radon gas is something that can invade your home from subterranean sources. I live in an over and under house, so part of my house, much to Joe's amusement, Max, you ready for this one? Yes, much of my house is underground.
Big surprise.
So, I know Joe
we know where the laboratory
the evil
is.
layer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just to confirm his suspicions and when you have homes with subterranean areas, radon gas can become something that could begin flashing and go, no, really, we don't know what's going on, but you don't need to be in here. We have sources of CO2, methane, picture in Florida, if you had some form of seismic switch built into subterranean earth movements.
Right.
Sinkhole.
Bingo, yeah.
Sinkhole begins opening up. Well, you might know this a day or two in advance. It might not save your house, but it could save you.
It's kind of a similar principle, I think, in Japan, like how they have like earthquake-proof buildings and everything. Like imagine adding like a seismograph sort of machine to standard houses, and as common as a thermostat. Maybe that's how it'll become.
Well, that's actually part of building code in certain parts of the country, up to and including this area, the Mid-South, for commercial buildings.
Yeah.
Because we are technically in an earthquake zone.
That's true. It's going to happen one day.
We're under a sleeping dragon.
We're down at the tail end of the sleeping dragon.
Max,
much can happen with a house now that we've lived in kind of a uneasy ignorance. How do you know your house is on fire? Well, we got smoke detectors.
Right.
Well, what if we had a heat detector in the attic that went, guys, it's 300 degrees. Something wrong.
Well, how about also a clean air detection? Like you've got all this stuff floating around that you're breathing in that you may not
How
know.
about, a radon gas or a CO2 or a mold detector? So all of these technologies, and folks, we're not looking out in the future. You can go to your big box store right now and cobble together these technologies. I would say in the next 10 years, Joe, we're going to see USB ports on light switches and wall sockets. I think you're going to have a USB bank somewhere. It's going to be 3 feet
Probably
up the
wherever
wall.
your home office is.
It's going to be wherever, Now, that's the other big thing. Houses being built now and houses being renovated are being renovated to have the specified home office.
Sure.
Not the bedroom that got converted, but the home office.
Yeah.
So I think the house, and also keep in mind, the house 20 years from now is probably going to have a solar roof.
Well, that's the thing. We didn't even bring that into the conversation. It's all the unique new power sources. We don't know if they're going to once we get I don't want to get off on a tangent, Alan, but once we have better sensing technology, you might have a subterranean lake 100 feet under your house that you could tap into for your irrigation system.
You mean
we don't know?
You mean like they do in Iceland for
Exactly.
thermodynamic power?
Yeah.
These are not sci-fi theories.
No, it's here. It'll be here by the time Max is our age. So,
by the time Max is our age, he's going to be living on another planet. What are you talking about?
Yeah. But Max, I will say this one last thing to circle back to your debate about sensors. I just don't think you can compare a house to a car in another way, because a car, especially when you're talking about the engine, you're talking about 3 or 4 feet across by a few feet. You're talking about a very confined space, exposed to really extreme temperatures and things. And a house is spread out. So
nope.
If
house is a confined space.
Well, Alan,
I'm going to agree with Max.
What if you have a sensor, for example, for your water lines that if you get a burst, it'll it'll shut it off. Well, that thing could be in the bathroom right next to the faucet or something. It could be as simple as If the light goes on, you unscrew it and you change it like a spark plug or something.
I'm going to agree with Max. I think the number of sensors and safety devices on the car is going to get rivaled by the number of sensors and safety devices on your house.
And I will listen to Joe and everything because, yes, not only does the car heat up really, but it's also got very fast moving pistons and everything.
Right. Yeah. I don't know how many moving parts we have in a house that
Or
compare to that.
fast moving parts in a house. That'd be
Well,
creepy.
in my house, not so much. I'm old. But, in your
Well,
house,
Alan's got
you're
electrodes
young,
and all sorts of who knows going through there. All right. Well, anyway, that's an interesting discussion. And folks, if you've got any opinions about that, shoot us call us or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And remember, you can call us or text us any day of the week. You can leave a voicemail or a text, and we'll get to it, as we will later when we get to our confession line, Alan, because I'm looking forward to that. That'll be at the top of the next hour.
In fact, we even got a text just now from and it says, what about a future fire sensor that goes bad and sets off a fire suppression system?
It could happen. Who sent us that? Did they leave
It's just the number.
Okay.
Well,
Good question. It sounds like they're leaning in with Max. Well, let's look at it that way. Okay.
Well, in that
Whoever
case,
they-
you would have a redundant system before you activated a system.
A sensor for a sensor.
Well, what you would do is you'd have to have 2 out of 3 that would read the same reading in order to turn on the fire suppression system.
Well, here's where you get to use Vulcan philosophy. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or something. So in other
That's
words,
utilitarianism.
yeah, would it save more lives to have that? And maybe there's the handful where the sensor does activate the fire suppression system or something. I don't know. I'm sure there's no perfect solution, but I think the right amount of sensors in a home could be pretty useful, personally.
Again, there's going to be some trial, there's going to be some error, there's going to be some inconvenience, but overall, I'm kind of looking forward to the home of the future.
Well, one thing, dear listener, you know what I would love in the home of my future? I want a force field around my home that I can turn on every time we get one of these ice storms or something. And so when a tree limb decides that it's going to fall, I can activate
and go through your roof.
Yeah, I can activate the force field. It'll bounce it away from the house and protect my roof. That would be cool.
So the deflector shield is quite operational.
Yeah. Boom. And exactly. So, well, Alan, good conversation. But speaking of roofs, let's shift gears real quick.
Let's pick on Jay for a minute, because
now Jay, if Jay Hill is listening with Big M Roofing and Remodeling, I wonder if he's looking into home deflector shields for the roof. That's the wave of the future, in my opinion.
So it's Big M deflector shields on Big M roofing.
But with the technology we have now, there's nobody better to call than our good buddy Jay Hill over at Big M Roofing and Remodeling. Especially if you've got a questionable situation. By that I mean you might go, okay, well, we definitely need a roof, or we need roof repair. I wonder if our homeowner's insurance will cover this. Well, boom, get Jay on the phone, because that he's a former insurance agent. He knows all the protocols.
Right.
And as Allan said, there's nothing more amusing than getting Jay on the phone with your insurance company and just listening to them talk.
They quit speaking English. They start speaking insurance. It's hilarious.
Yeah, and because you need an advocate in that situation. And what's great is not only is he a master elite installer, he's got 5-star accredited with the Better Business Bureau and Good Housekeeping, and they install these roofing systems. But Jay, it's basically a free consultation. If you have a question about it, just call Jay. He'll go over there, and it's just fun meeting him anyway. I guarantee within 5 minutes you're gonna know the same people. Like all of a sudden you go, oh, such and such. I know Bob too. Whatever. He knows everybody in town, and he puts you at ease, and he makes you realize, okay, there's a solution here, and it might be a very affordable solution. So
Indeed.
And also, the great thing about Jay is when you do get into a situation where maybe there is a roof replacement or a repair, he doesn't say, okay, well, I'll see you in 3 months when I can get you scheduled. Usually he's pretty quick on his feet. They act quickly. I can't promise how many days it'll be, but it's probably going to be much quicker than you think.
They did my job with a great deal of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
There was not a long delay.
No, they're great. And, of course, as we said, they install roofing systems. It's an entire interactive, interlocking system, and it's lifetime transferable warranties, which still blows my mind. So get in touch with Jay. You can call him directly at 901-484-5645 or go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com. All right, Alan. This is sort of interesting. We've got, I guess, kind of a recycling update. We've been talking about, trying to be more efficient, and trying to recycle, repurpose, and reuse. And this is one, to be honest, I bet many people who have traveled have wondered about this, and you actually found an answer, and it has to do with hotel soaps, among other things, right?
Well, when you think about our modern world,
yeah,
and you think about how health conscious we are and all these type things, you really have to kind of wonder sometimes what happened to something.
right.
So, and
Or
this,
what are they going to do with this when I leave? Like, yeah.
well, exactly. There is a lot of people are kind of like, well, you can't put food back. You can't put certain things back.
Right.
And one thing that several companies got involved in a few years back was hotel soaps. Just
Yep.
one of these little odd, bizarre little topics, and just what happens to them. Because let's face it, you're only in the hotel for a day or two
Yeah, I mean,
for
if you
most
take,
of the business travel.
yeah, if you go in there and you take a shower or you wash your hands or something, it doesn't use that entire bar or even the shampoo. I mean, let's face it, Alan, we're not going to use a lot of shampoo.
You
when
need
we
to,
travel.
not that we ain't.
But at the same time, yeah. So then what? You always wonder what happens to it. So what you found some answers, right?
Well,
So,
digging through a couple of things, and suddenly you went, okay, so what did happen to all of this?
Yeah.
And a number of other people asked the same, and the answer, very depressingly, was it's probably all going in a landfill.
oh, wait, that used to be the answer.
That used to be the answer. So now and I'm going to say several different companies of really reached out to the hotels and said, look, let's cut a deal.
Yeah.
We'll pick up your soaps and shampoos and stuff like that. We're going to save you that much money in disposing of this stuff.
Right.
And every year, it's estimated the hospitality industry alone generates over 400 billion pounds
Wow.
of solid waste.
Isn't that something?
So,
I
when
believe
you
it. Yeah.
think about the number of things that get thrown away out of a hotel.
Yeah.
So, a guy by the name of Sean, I'm going to mispronounce his name here, Selper, back in 2008, was sitting around and he just got overwhelmed by this thought. So, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Where does all these soaps go? And he was sitting there thinking, all right, well, this hotel has 500 rooms. So that's basically 500 bars of soap a day
Sure.
that got used once or twice and then went in the trash. So the hotel was more than happy to kind of like, all right, look, if you want the soap, you can have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
What do they care? I mean, you're doing them a favor, and plus, it's just a good humanitarian thing to do instead of being wasteful.
Well, he launched Clean the World.
Okay.
And what it is they will gather up soaps and other amenities from hotels. They will clean them, scrub them, repress them, and then turn them into donatable soaps to clean the world. Honestly, send them out to pandemic-struck areas, hurricane-struck areas, refugees, because being able to just wash your hands
Sure.
becomes a drastic measure. So in keeping with our recycling, repurposing, and reusing, a huge shout-out. And like I said, he's just the first one I found. There are a number of companies doing this.
I mean, it's an easy thing, but it's such an easy idea, but somebody's got to take the bull by the horns and run with it. And it's like it's one of these win-wins. The hotel, they're not going to use it anyway, and they have less waste that they got to worry about, and they're helping the world. Pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
Not unlike what we do here at Tool Talk Radio, Alan.
I don't think so.
Thanks, Max. Well, Alan, the first hour of Tool Talk Radio is in the can, but never fear, folks. Stay tuned because we got hour 2 coming up, and we're going to kick it off with our confession hotline. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis. We'll be right back.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome to Hour 2 of Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our buddy Max behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And really, you can call or text us any day of the week. And we'll get the message, and if it's interesting, we'll read it on the air, like we're about to do, Allan, in a minute. But we do like hearing from you, and I wish our texter earlier had left a name, but whoever you are, you made thanks for joining in the conversation earlier. We were talking, it got kind of high tech, Allan. We were talking about USB ports, and then it led into a discussion about the home of the future and a counterpoint between me and Max.
Things got heated.
Yeah, it got really interesting. So if you missed that, you can check that out anytime when you go back and listen to our past shows. You can listen at Spotify or YouTube or really any of those
place
platforms
where your podcast are delivered.
Yeah, so if you want to go to our Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. Allan links it there.
Mm-hmm.
Go to tooltalkradio.com. Allan links it there. Or just subscribe to the shows, and we'll link it and send it to you.
We'll deliver.
Well, Allan, we've got a few things to get to. Of course, later we're going to get to our must-have item of the week. We're going to talk about the role of a contractor shortly. It's a bigger thing than just going there to, here, I'm going to do this for you, and this is how much it's going to cost. There's a bigger dynamic at play. We're going to talk about that as well. But before we get to that, Allan, it's time for the Tool Talk Radio confession line.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I've called you all here because I need some honest answers.
Yeah, they all kind of broke. So, when do I start?
There is a basket of oil-soaked rags above a wood-burning stove.
Are you out of your mind? You put a jet engine on a lawnmower?
This time, they are going to be held accountable. This time, they are the ones who will pay.
wow. I don't know if this is going to be that dramatic, Allan. I mean, this is not, equivalent to the jet engine on the lawnmower, but this comes from a female listener. First time we've had this, but this is something I guarantee.
Well, I'd like to point out 60 to 70% of our listeners are female.
That's what I'm told.
So it's, man, send us some messages.
Okay, well, here's the confession, and I guarantee if you're listening, every one of us has done this. I'm guilty of this myself, Allan, so Here we go. Dear Tool Talk Radio, when my husband and I bought our first house, we painted all the rooms before we moved in. Very smart move, because you're not going to do it after you move in.
Right.
He was brushing and I was rolling. On one of the living room walls, I needed to move the drop cloth over, but there was a ladder on top of it and a bunch of other stuff that I didn't feel like moving, so I rolled the wall without a drop cloth. Everything seemed fine until later when I noticed thousands of tiny dots all over our nice, clean hardwood floors. It took forever to clean up, and my husband never let me hear the end of it. Caitlin in Memphis.
I thought it's women that don't forget anything.
Well, Allan, I mean, I can't promise I never did anything like this. Or have you ever had the thing where you're rolling a wall and you didn't realize it, but somehow the drop cloth had scooted away from the wall like 6 inches or something, and you have a perfect line of whatever. So first of all, Caitlin, it's not the most horrifying thing we've ever heard, but I feel like it's a useful discussion, Allan, because it's very common. I mean,
yes,
and we're also
I'm just sitting here
tips.
reminiscing of the thousands of floors.
Well, and sometimes nobody does anything. They just leave it there. They stick a rug over it, or they just that's I'm not going to clean that up. It's going to take forever to do that. But for one thing, in a minute we're going to talk about ideas for cleaning that up. But Allan, I remember specifically somebody told me they had hired a painter once, and the guy said, "Oh, I don't really need drop cloths. I'm very neat." Or whatever. I've never heard of that. When you roll a wall, I don't know how you avoid those little splatters.
You're going to get speckles.
Yeah, even if you go slow, how could you possibly?
You're going to get speckles. All right. Well, the number one thing I would say to avoid the whole problem that I've started doing recently is papering the floor. I don't even use a drop cloth. I just go ahead and get the sheets of craft paper and tape it down all the way around, and that way the entire floor is covered Nothing can shift. Nothing can move. You peel it all up at the end and throw it away.
Max, cue the point counterpoint music because I might have I don't know that I 100% agree with that, Alan, because let me ask you this.
You mean?
Yeah. Gosh, this is turning into okay, Alan, are you saying because I think that's one tool in the arsenal. Right. What if you're working with some oil-based paint and a drip gets on there and slowly penetrates through that paper or whatever, and then you find out 3 days later when you pull it up that you've got a nice, solid, hard to remove paint splotch there.
Yep. I agree. I just, when you were talking about rolling the walls, you're not rolling the walls with oil-based paint. You're using a latex.
What if you get a big latex drip on there? I don't know. I don't know if that's foolproof,
the latex
Alan.
strips, the paper, I find that a decent craft paper will solve 98 to 99% of your latex issues. Oil, that's a different animal. We got to talk a little. Oil is basically your door facings.
Okay.
And I think you need to be very aware of what you're doing, and you're also not rolling oil-based paint on anything these days.
No, unless you're in it. Yeah, you don't need to be
you're
rolling
not
it,
rolling oil-based paint. So,
right.
To solve the speckle problem, I'm going to say go with the craft paper, tape it down. Just tape down the whole floor. I don't care where you're working, tape down the whole floor. That way, when somebody comes to help, your little fur baby, and he steps in your paint and walks away, he'll walk away on the paper.
Okay.
And leave you cute little footprints you'll probably cut out and save later.
Let's
let's
go
meet
in the middle, Alan. Well, real quick,
now.
I want to meet in the middle on this, so I'm not just being argumentative with you. I'd say if gauge your skill level. If you don't paint very often and you're because I've seen people, they're very messy. If you're a pretty neat painter, Alan's technique will probably work. If you're really messy, you better go for the nuclear option. Have
go for
plastic
both.
line drop cloths, have the whole thing.
Yeah, tape paper the floor and get the drop cloth.
Okay.
No one says you can't do both.
All right. Well, but now let's talk about how to clean it up. Now, Alan, there's many ways. I don't know. Depending on the finish of the floor. Okay, for one thing, don't bust out like the acetone in a rag or something like that. If it's latex, like you said, honestly, I've had some good results with things like that with just an old towel, and you get it really wet, and you scrub it with the towel. But the trick with that is, boy, you got to get that water up immediately, or you're going to have water damage. It's kind of like in one hand you have the scrubbing towel, and then the other you have the other towel to dry it off or something. But it's not perfect. You're still going to get a workout. You're going to be like Danielson from the Karate Kid after a while. But that's worked for me. I've had other things, but what else?
I tell you a bizarre one I saw that actually works.
Okay,
was a relatively thin shop type towel, and
like a t-shirt material or something.
The thinner shop towels, not the really thick, heavy, like we're protecting you from nuclear devices type shop towels. And the guy filled it with crushed ice.
Oh, I've never tried it. Really?
And he put like a ball of crushed ice in the center of it and got down there with it, and it's just enough water. It wasn't soaking it through, but that ice gave it just enough abrasion. It was popping that little latex speckle off like nobody's business.
Boy, now you're making me think of something else. Okay, so depending on how hard you use that, I could see if you went nuts with it, you could leave little grooves or you could actually damage the floor. But if you had just the right amount of finesse,
right? And
maybe soft ice. Go to the gas station and get that.
Like I said, the crushed,
right?
Not like the big old chunky ice cubes, like you're going to gouge the floor, but the crushed ice.
Yeah.
And he made a bag out of that towel and got down there and went at it. And he was putting some elbow grease in, but I tell you, he got all that little speckle up in a pretty short period of time.
Huh. And I know, okay, for something like what Caitlin did, she had it all over the floor for like one wall. Because I know we haven't mentioned goof off yet, or any of these, because the thing about those, the thing about those, Alan, I'm not as big of a fan in a situation like this because, okay, if you get that one drip of oil-based paint on a section, okay, well, maybe you do something like that. But the problem is that goof off is very oily and smelly and chemically, because then you got to clean that up. It's not just a matter of you clean up the paint, then you got to clean up the goof off. You got to clean up the remover and
pick the right cleaner, because there is now specifically a latex remover by Goof Off.
Okay, good.
Specifically for it. Don't get the nuclear Goof Off option, which is we have no idea what this is, but it's sticky and it has to go.
Right.
Because Goof Off makes some products that will strip your finish.
That's the problem. You start, it'll clean up the paint, but it cleans up everything else.
I would get specifically a latex cleaner and a soft brush.
My instincts, the older I get, Alan, are to steer clear of chemicals whenever I can help.
Yes.
Like if I have a leak in my sink, I physically remove the leak. I take the pipe out.
Right.
I do, and I don't just dump a bunch of chemicals. And it's the same with this, because that little bit of residue that's left there, in a year or two, you're going to look back and go, why is there a yellow stain on my floor? Or why is there such and such? It's because chemicals, they might work slowly and,
degrade. And again, a lot depends upon the floor. Is this VCT? Is it vinyl? Is it floating? Is it fixed?
Yeah.
Is it, now the best thing in the world to do if you're really getting ambitious and you just bought a house, are you changing out the flooring?
Well, good point.
If you're changing out the flooring, do your demo, get your flooring that's coming out, then paint all of your walls and do all of your ceiling work.
Well, you got a concrete.
And then now it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
because you're going to put a flooring back in and all sins of the past will disappear. And if you want to write the next homeowner a humorous message under there, who am I to say what you should write?
Yeah.
But, so I mean,
I can't promise I haven't done that, Alan. It's like, it's like
I've run into so many strange things doing old houses. Trust me.
Yeah, not to change the subject, but you said this, Alan, and I promise we'll move along. But one of the best things, you sent me a link where in between those cabinets, you know how there's like a dead zone where there's literally nothing there in a cabinet? Somebody stuck a plastic skeleton in there, crunched up like a workman that had gotten trapped. And they said, well, somebody in 50 years is going to have a real surprise.
Oh, yeah. Just, And I would leave a note that says, just joking, don't call the police.
Yeah. But anyway, if you've got anything you need to confess, like we said, I think this was a good one, Alan, because I think many of us have been guilty of this.
We've all done it at least once.
Yeah.
You've looked back and you went, oh, and I was being so careful.
Right.
I was looking for every drip, and yet one will get you.
Yeah. So, Caitlin, thanks for sharing. And if you want to share, you could do it any day of the week. You could do it. Well, you could do it now, but we're going to move along. So send us one at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989. You can text it. You can call and leave a voice message. And if it's interesting enough, we'll read it on the air.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Who's never been guilty of something like this because she just runs a very tight operation. She's a, consummate professional. She would never allow this type of thing in her company. And that's Cindy Williams with Shelf Genie of the Mid-South. Well, for one thing, they don't paint. So,
yeah, that helps.
So she's covered there. But boy, Alan, the Shelf Genie, I don't know. I want to say the Shelf Genie universe or the Shelf Genie presence is ever expanding. Like people,
Shelf Genie cinematic universe.
Yeah, it's just people are talking about. They travel all over the place. We talk about them going on tour. Right. Oh shoot, I had their tour outline. I'll try to find that shortly. But Shelf Genie of the Mid-South is a very dynamic company. They it's all about solutions for your storage. It's there's so much potential in your kitchen cabinets they're not always being utilized, and that's what they're all about.
I'm going to throw in not just the kitchen cabinets, but also look at the bathroom cabinets, your pantry, look at your linen closet, and think about the amount of space and air that is inconvenient to get to.
Right.
And picture not just the one feature I've always been most impressed with was anything that pulled out and came down or lifted up.
Yeah.
And, being of somewhat limited mobility myself, this is a huge feature. Now suddenly the top shelf
Right.
And, and a lot of us are not 6'6". Let's face it. Some of these top shelves were designed for giants.
Oh, yeah.
And now you can reach up, and the top shelf can now be fully utilized. You can bring it down to your eye level.
Yep.
Get what you need and put it back up.
Oh, absolutely. It's funny you mentioned that too, Alan, because one of the biggest treatments they do is for the pantry, because the pantry is almost like, I've seen some where there's so much stuff in there, that whatever is in the back of that thing hasn't been touched in years.
Yeah.
And it's usually food items too.
Yep.
And you don't want to find that old mayonnaise jar after it's been in there for 6 years or something. So it's like, they help you with all of that. And it just makes your kitchen more efficient, and you can spend more time, cooking and enjoying and eating than you do hunting for things.
Yes.
And being mad. So basically, Shelf Genie in the Mid-South, like I said, they have treatments for all of it. And they all of their technicians and their designers, everyone involved goes to Shelf Genie school. They're highly qualified, and the consultation is free. So it's a great idea to get them to come out, and they're going to look at the kitchen. You're going to look at your kitchen in a new way and see all this great potential. So you can call Shelf Genie in the Mid-South directly at 901-422-8225. Make sure you tell them you heard about it on Tool Talk Radio, or you can go to shelfgenie.com/Mid-South. Or if you're out and about, Alan, so it's kind of a long list. Okay, they're going to be at the Italian Festival at the end of May. May 3rd, they're going to be at the Senior Expo at the Agri Center, because we know a lot of seniors have trouble with mobility, like you said. They're going to be at the Hernando Fair on the 21st, and then they're going to be at the Collierville Fair on the Square, and I think that's Saturday, or I don't know. It's coming up. Just Google it, people. I can't do everything here, but you can catch them on tour, and you'll see what we mean, Alan. When you go to the Shelf Genie tent or the booth, it's like the party place. Everybody's
there.
Yeah. So, all right, Alan. Well, interesting stuff. So let's see. What do we want to get to? I think. Why don't we get to our must-have item of the week? How's that? Now, I've already posted this, Alan, so a few of our listeners have checked it out, but I'm actually holding up two things, but just tell them what I'm holding up here.
Basically, what you're going to pitch today is a socket extension.
Yeah, we're pitching because we're big. In fact, let's, just for the full effect, there's a very satisfying sound when you're working.
2 weeks in a row of having, having the sounds of your tools.
Well, it brings it alive, Max. We are an audio medium after all. But, Alan, I'm just a big, one thing, because I've seen cheap socket wrenches, the handle part, and there's such a small difference in price between a really good one and one that's not so good. And that's one of these, I always say, it only takes a little more to go first class. Yeah. But, Alan, the extender, this is a 12-inch extension for the socket. And, I mean, how many times do you have that really hard to reach nut or bolt or something? And especially like if you're working on a car or something.
In my world,
right.
Every day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely. I mean, it's such a lifesaver, and it gives you a certain sense of liberation when you can reach
I know
that
you're going to be
work area.
shocked about this, Joe. Yeah. I actually have one of my cute little tool belts set up with a low power screwdriver with the adapter and the socket extension already preset, ready to go when we're changing out of small area air conditioners.
Interesting.
So you just literally walk in with my tool belt and my quick draw, and it's kind of like, all right, we need to unbolt all of this, and it's just tout, 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 tout. It looks like NASCAR.
That's exactly. So
it's an amazing tool. When you need it, you gotta have it.
Well, and I'm also thinking too, I guess it does apply a lot in cars, but it also applies to those times where you're working around something. I would venture to guess that Larry Brown uses stuff like this with the HVAC. That if you've got a pipe behind something and you've got to get that extra reach, and all of a sudden, when you don't have to bend or climb way into the car engine or climb way back into the closet to replace that pipe or something, it's really, really handy. I just love these things, and I've got a few, Alan. If it came down to it, I bet you I could unscrew a bolt from about 4 feet away.
Yep.
and all the adapters and everything that goes with it. So, the sockets, you don't stop with just a socket set.
Oh, no.
You need the extension,
Yeah, it's well, and I'm trying to get to where I'm going to say something nice about engineers and designers.
Yeah.
And then there's times when you look at them and go, what were you thinking? Why did you put this back here?
Okay. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
where the extension comes in so handy.
Maybe they had money invested in socket extension stock or something like that. So anyway, once again, the 12-inch extension for your socket wrench.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Alan, and there is something satisfying when you're trying to loosen a bolt and you're grunting and whatever, and all of a sudden you hear that little clicking to indicate it came loose. Really cool, man. All right, Alan, we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, though, it's time to we're gonna unpack what does it mean to be a contractor.
Alrighty.
It's more than just selling your services and all that. It's about being an advocate for your homeowner. I guess. Anyway, you're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar, Memphis. I'm going to go drink some caffeine, and I'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
I assure you, Lord Vader, my men are working as fast as they can.
Perhaps I can find new ways to motivate them.
News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis.
I need this guy's help with this show.
Absolutely. That's a mark of a true leader. He'll motivate you. He'll get the work done. Anyway, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Allan Gilbert from darkoakmedia.com and our buddy Max behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989, or go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. Give us a like. I shouldn't say or. I should say and go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page, because you should do it all. Don't just tune in and be a passive listener. Participate in the show. That's what's great about talk radio. You can participate and be part of the conversation, and send us your ideas, send us your thoughts. I don't know, is that a good idea, Allan?
Well,
nah, within reason, but
within reason.
We're opening up Pandora's box.
Yeah, send it over there. And also, when you go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page, there's all sorts of links. We always put up our must-have item of the week. We put up our shows once Allan posts them, and there's links to past shows. You can just binge listen.
Oh, yes.
Have a lot of fun over there and join the Tool Talk Radio community. So, well, Allan, actually, this was an idea. We didn't do a lot of show prep on this, but it sort of occurred to me this morning in terms of, with us being contractors and everything. And I don't know that I teased it correctly, but it's more along the lines of I wanted to discuss a dynamic that I've noticed in as the years have gone by with my contracting work. So I will say, when I first started back, like in, I don't know, I've been working here in the Mid-South since like 1995. That's when I started full-time being, doing remodeling, and what I've really gravitated towards now is working outside. I really like outdoor projects, and especially to do with carpentry. So at first, Allan, somebody would call me and they say, I want this, this, and this done. Can you come and give me a quote? And I would just walk in there and they say, okay, I want this room painted over here. I want this door removed over here. And I want this, deck built over here or something like that. And in the old days, I would just look at it and give them a quote and go along my merry way. Well, lately, I've gotten more proactive, and I've tried to get a better understanding of what their plans are. For example, if you have a newlywed couple, they're going to probably be in that house for a while, or maybe it's just a starter home that they're going to be there for a year or two or whatever, or maybe it's a retired couple or something. And also just basically looking at the whole state of the house. And so I have more of a holistic approach these days, you could say, Allan. So I'll go in there, and they might call me. They say, hey, we want to build this deck over here. And I might look it over, and then in the course of our conversation, it might be, well, have you noticed this problematic area over here by the the roof or something? And we might reprioritize, and then at the end of the meeting, I might be giving them a quote for something entirely different, but they're usually happier because, and I feel like that's kind of our role. So that's what I wanted to talk about,
Okay, I did my first restaurant in 1982.
A restaurant.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a million years ago.
Yeah.
The thing is, we accumulate so many different little jobs over the years.
Yeah.
And we see little different tips and tricks. And the biggest thing is the number of people we work with.
Right.
because this week you're working with Jose, next week you're working with Bob, next week you're working with Carl, next week you're working with Stephanie. So I mean, all these different contractors with different specialties,
Right.
and they all leave you with little hints, tips, and tricks.
Sure.
That you've picked up over the years, and you've seen so many different finished products.
Right.
And when you kind of walk in, I'll pick one. Just 2 weeks ago, got called to a building that is being brought back into service.
Right.
The building's been blank. Nobody's been in it for a few years, and it's got a new owner. And he's walking around the building with me, and he's honestly looking for, okay, what do I got to do?
He's thinking, okay, well, what are the problems in this building
Exactly.
that I got to fix?
And
yeah.
And, we're standing there and we're looking, and you can see where there used to be a generator.
Yeah.
Well, but it's gone. So we don't know what it was. We don't know what size it was. We don't know what it serviced. We don't know, we don't know all those things. But, I whip out my phone. I call a buddy that I know knows these things.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day he goes out and, the owner of this property is freaking out going, oh, this could be, this could be a lot of money.
Right.
This could be in the $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 range. And, one conversation later with a good expert.
Yeah.
With the right idea, and suddenly this huge problem is now a really small problem.
Sure.
That's only going to cost this much, and it's going to be fixed, and it's going to be right. And now but now what is kind of like when we start talking, the dominoes began falling.
Sure.
Oh, well, if we can fix this, why don't we look at
Right.
B right down here, and what can we do with that?
Yeah, I think the idea, Alan, is because if you're a contractor out there, and you can kind of get into your own world where you take for granted the fact that I know how to rip a wall out and build
Right.
something. I know how to do this. Well, the average homeowner, or I know somebody that can do it for me. Or
Right.
you have all these resources and all this accumulated knowledge, which to you just seems sort of, you take it for granted. But
everyday
to
stuff.
To a guy that's an accountant that never deals with these, and he's got a house that's got a problem,
Mm-hmm.
they may not think of it that way. And so it's really just to your benefit, I think. I've had times where, honestly, Alan, I've gone and consulted with somebody, and I talk them out of hiring me immediately. Like I say, okay, personally, what I would do is revisit this in a year. Like, in other words, I would first, if you're going to budget,
Solve problem A,
then call me.
before we build project
because
B.
You're not doing them a favor if in the big picture, they should have spent money on the roof and they
Right.
spent money on your thing. So, and if you've got some integrity, that's what you should do. But also, what I find too is it just builds a certain trust with the homeowner when it's obvious you're not there just trying to, how much can I rack up here? Because I know there's those contractors out there that do that what do you call them, the quick stick and move, like they want that check, they're going to do their work, and they're disappearing. You'll never see them again.
Well, what happens when you don't do that is you wind up way too busy.
Well, that's a good point too. Yeah,
because this homeowner has family and friends. And if you put in a really good patio, or you install the dishwasher correctly, or you solve that perpetually squeaky door that and it's sometimes it's not even a big job. A lot of times I find it's I can't get this door to stay open.
Right.
Type job, especially for homeowners in older homes. This door always swings closed. It's like having a ghost. This door always swings closed. Well, okay, let's diagnose. I mean, is the floor warped? Is the house falling off its, to one side? Or did somebody once upon a time, when they were a teenager, swing on the door and bend the top hinge?
Yeah.
Well, they bent the top hinge. It's a 10-minute, 15-minute fix. But now my experience is the minute you do that little fix, the dominoes begin falling. It's like, oh, well,
as long as we did this,
do that,
yeah,
and that was only this much. Now I can talk about let's talk about a garbage disposal. Let's talk about a dishwasher. Let's talk about let's talk about these LED lights I keep hearing so much about.
Sure.
And let me tell you, folks, now is a great time to sit down with your professional and rethink the lighting in your home. Joe and I talk about lighting all the time.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Big topic. Drastically change how you look at things, but maybe you need that third person's perspective.
And I would say too, Alan, it's not just for because I do a lot of carpentry, which means the carpentry sort of encompasses almost every part of the house. So it means that I've done sheetrock work, and I've done I've even done some tile work and remodeling, which I've kind of steered clear of. However, even your plumber or your electrician, it's not like they only do that. A lot of times they have expertise in some of the other, or at least they have somebody on standby. So if you have, I'm just saying, if you have a contractor visit your house, don't distract them and don't make them, don't spend 3 hours walking around the house. But at the same time, don't feel as if you can't ask them some other questions, because they may look at that door over there, Alan, that's leaning, and say, well, that looks like you might have a foundation issue, or it might be a water leak, or it could be any number of things, and it's not a bad idea to get their opinion on things.
Well, it's never turned down expertise when you got it standing there.
Yeah.
And here's the great thing. There's no money on the table. There's no dog in the fight here. Sometimes when somebody walks up and they go, have you had anybody look at the hand railing going up to your front steps?
Mm-hmm.
They may not do that work, but they may have seen something they've seen at other job sites where, that concrete's starting to crack. You might want to have somebody look at that.
Gosh, you know what else, Alan? Something else, because we talk about evolving technology and everything. Perfect example. I had a customer who, gosh, I did work for her like 20 years ago. She was calling me all the time. I was constantly doing, work, whatever. And then she recently got in touch with me about she had it was like a rail. She wanted like a decorative handrail built on, for her front porch or something. And it was a very specific design and everything. And I said, you know what? Honestly, I could do this for you, or you could jump on like one of like 50 different websites. It'll be half the price, and they can just ship it directly to your house or whatever. And that wouldn't have been the case like 20 years ago or something.
No.
So the fact that, there's other companies that do some of these things too. So, I basically talked myself out of a little work, but I just saved her half the money. So I think it pays for itself in the end, though, because at the end of the day, you want to be a trusted source, and, you want people to respect your opinion and everything. So,
well, it's kind of like this. It's kind of like, if you ever want to know a lot of people, you want to be popular, you want to feel needed, buy a pickup truck. Really, honestly, buy a pickup truck. Let your family find out you know how to change out a fluid master in a toilet.
Yeah.
You will suddenly be shocked at how many people wiggle the handle on the toilet because they don't know how to change out the fluid master.
I'm already becoming an expert in how to unclog toilets and everything.
Yeah.
Thanks, Max.
once that talent gets out, that Max just bought a pickup truck. Hey, Max, what you doing on Saturday? It's amazing the amount of pizza you discover that you can be offered.
Right.
And when you're in the actual trades, when you're in the handyman business, or you're a contractor, or you're with a big business, don't be afraid to mention a problem you see while you're there.
Sure.
And it may have nothing to do with you, but you might be saving your client, a $500 job now. 2 years from now is going to be a $2,000 job.
Perfect example of that, Alan. I was walking around the house once with somebody, and I don't even remember, to be honest, what the job was that we were looking at. But I walked by, and there was a broken head of a like an irrigation system,
right,
and a huge puddle of water.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like 2 feet from the house. So. And they're like, no, I need to fix it. We haven't gotten around to it. I'm like, and I was really encouraging them. I said, beyond the fact that it's going to breed mosquitoes and you're wasting water, I'm just like, look at it, because it started to work its way under the foundation. And a quick little fix like that is going to save him a bunch of foundation repair.
It's a $20 fix at a big box store that could save him tens of thousands of dollars working on a foundation.
And on the flip side of that, Alan, I bet you've seen this as well. You go to somebody's house and they think they have this catastrophic horrible situation where it's going to be this really expensive repair, and you give them a solution that's like, okay, well, actually, it's not going to be $20,000. If we fix this over here, it's going to be about $500 or something. And that's cool too when you get in those where you can put their mind at ease. So,
or you change the scope of the project.
Yeah,
it's kind of like, well, all right, you do have to replace the window, the soffit, and everything. It did rot out.
Right.
Now, and the next question I generally like to ask is that point is, and what are your plans here?
Oh, very good. Yeah.
And suddenly...
Explain what you mean by that.
And suddenly they go, well, you know, I've never really liked that style of window, or I've always wanted a better window box, or I've always... It's kind of like, well, you know, while you're doing this, you're already paying the trip charge and the labor. It's only going to be this little bit more to go ahead and get that dream project. So, you know, your homeowner repair suddenly becomes a little bit more of a homeowner renovation to a dream.
Yeah.
Which makes, you know, let's face it, if it's you're making me do this because I got water coming in around the window is painful.
Right.
No, I'm getting a brand new XYZ brand window that I've always wanted, and I'm getting the flower box right outside the window I've always wanted.
Absolutely.
Makes it a lot more palatable.
Yeah, I'm thinking here, Alan, if you're so I guess if you're a young homeowner, or maybe you're just somebody that doesn't deal with contractors a lot because you've heard the horror stories or whatever, you know, next time you have a project that needs to be done, I would definitely, for one thing, recommend get 3 or 4 estimates at least. Make sure you get references but also pick up on those signals. If you get people that are all their, you know, their only, you know, if their only focus is how much can we sell you, how much can we get you to, you know, spend, versus somebody that's going in there like where they almost feel like they're your advocate. Those are the people you want to establish a relationship with. And even if they're slightly higher, it's usually worth the money because they may have a network of guys. They can say, I can pick up the phone, especially if you're doing some kind of a remodel that involves a lot of different, you know, trades or something like that. So,
again, Bob the plumber knows Carl the electrician.
Yeah.
And Carl the electrician knows Joe the carpenter.
Right.
And Joe the carpenter, you know, so I mean, we've all
the
met.
Snowball effect.
You know, we all know each other, and we all have a hit list of people that we like that we would let work on our own homes.
Yeah.
You know, so I'll pick on a couple of our clients. We walk into somebody's home and we're like going, okay, we're going to put in a new sink. Have you thought about Shelf Genie?
There you go. Well, honestly, because we deal with the best people here.
Well, so, yeah, just kind of throwing in. It's never a bad thing to kind of get an idea that, oh, well, I'm not necessarily stuck with what I've got.
Right.
And what I've got may not be a problem. It might be an opportunity.
Yeah. Well, that's what didn't Benjamin Franklin said that every problem is an opportunity in disguise or something, which I really believe in that. I think that's how I live my life, Alan.
Well,
you know,
there's a part of the yard that is XYZ and I can't get it to do what I want. Well, okay, what are your other options? Well, but I'd like to put in a water feature. I'd like to put in a fire pit feature. Okay, well, let's walk around the yard and let's see what makes sense.
Yeah. I guess what we're saying here is let's have a more holistic attitude.
Yes.
If you're a contractor or if you're a homeowner, just like look at the bigger picture, because all these things intersect. It's one home, and you know, even if you just have a plumbing issue, it may be involved. You know, there may be other things involved.
Get your friends and family involved, but also remember nothing is set in stone, and take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah,
it's your home, it's your project, and it should finish how you really want it to be,
right,
to meet your needs.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's a conversation that's going to continue, Alan, I have to say. But I've
got 1,000 stories of walking around buildings with people and going, okay, let me tell you what the $5 technology fix is for this at the big box store.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, Alan. Well, speaking of, let's switch gears to a shameless promotion. Let's suppose you need to consult with somebody. Maybe you have a deck or a patio cover or a pergola or something made out of wood for the outside of your house. Well, you can give me a call. And you can and you can test me, see if I really know what I'm talking about here with all these other, these bits of advice that we give out every week. But no, I love carpentry work. That's sort of what I've gravitated to over the years, Alan. I really enjoy outdoor projects, and frankly, I like these projects where it's more of a fun experience. Like nobody's calling me at 2 a.m. because they need an emergency patio cover built.
Right.
It's usually because they budgeted money and they want to improve their lifestyle and they want to have some, just improve the value of their home. And so those are the projects I really like. So that's what I'm all about. So you can call me directly at 901-921-7105 or go to my website, thorshomes.com. And if you don't need any work done, if you just need to sit back and relax and watch some unique television programming or unique content, Alan, what should they do?
Well, they can always just take their smart TV or browser and go to darkoakmedia.com. And we have a wide variety of shows from around the world. Some of our most popular stuff is, of course, it came from the international market, where the evil producer goes shopping at the international market and the hapless, quote-unquote, volunteers get to eat or drink whatever it is they purchased.
Alan, I think you're giving international markets a bad name because the connotation there is very sinister.
No,
there's a lot of exciting
hilarious.
things you can get in international.
It's like you're treating it like the Temple of Doom from Indiana Jones.
I mean, that's what it's making me think of.
Well, I will mention in the horchata episode.
The horchata episode,
where nobody up there knew what that was. And for those of you that do know, y'all all just went, that stuff is really good. It's a lot of fun watching people discover something they absolutely love and didn't know they loved it.
You know what it reminds me of, Alan? Not to get on a tangent here, but you remember in Harry Potter, they have the Bertie Bott's every flavor bean.
Yes.
Because and they're literally every flavor. You might bite into one and it's a delicious blueberry flavor, or you might bite into one and it's a sawdust flavor or something. So it seems like the same experience here, where they're they don't know whether they're getting something that's going to be really good or really scary. So.
And the big thing is like candy flavors. A candy that you are 100% everything about here in the United States may differ drastically in different countries around the world.
Sure. Okay.
Meaning their local taste and their local desires. So it is a lot of fun sometimes to sit down and try a well-known dessert or candy. Well, this is the U.S. version, and now there's 3 other versions from around the world.
Absolutely. And, of course, it wouldn't be right if you didn't tune into Tool Talk Radio and get Alan giving us a food reference. So, Alan, we checked that box. How do they find out more?
All they got to do is go to darkoakmedia.com, and they can enjoy it. And the biggest thing going on is, of course, our show.
Yeah, we're part of that
all
too.
All around the world. We're literally from India to the Dominican Republic to everywhere.
Yeah, a lot of fun, man. The digital age has its problems, but it's also got some interesting dynamics.
Great advantages.
So, and also there's really no reason to tune out of News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis on Saturdays, especially. So, coming up after us, we got the Real Deal Racing Report, Alan, with Lynn Neal and Rick Taylor. That's always a lot of fun. And then, of course, Motor Mouth. So you never know what Ditch and Bud are going to be talking about or who they'll be interviewing.
I bet it's cars.
They interview a lot of interesting people too. Have you noticed that? And some of these guys, I thought I heard one where they were talking to some guy from Australia. They pretty wide ranging.
I thoroughly enjoy that show.
Yeah. So Saturdays, that's what it's all about. Informational, and then of course,
then there's that other show
at noon. You want to stay tuned for Geek Tank Radio with our buddy. Yeah, Max doesn't. But anyway, me and Allan and our buddy Brandon Olmstead. And actually, Allan, we have a special guest coming up from the Memphis Astronomical Society, Jeremy Veldman, the director. Awesome. He's going to get talk space news with us. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So stay tuned, folks. Go get a bottle of water and get back to the radio. But it's time to get out of here, Allan. So on behalf of my buddy Allan Gilbreth and our pal Max over there behind the glass, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week.